Hello students, moving on to the next part, that is the midbrain. Already in the earlier video I have completed the forebrain, within which we have seen the structure and function of cerebrum, then the encephalon and the olfactory lobe. Now in this video we will start with the midbrain. So the location of the midbrain is just behind the diencephalon and in front of the cerebellum. So let's just see first of all how this midbrain is located. So if this is the brain, already in the earlier video I have drawn the diagram. So this is the corpus callosum. So in this corpus callosum, in this area we are going to have the midbrain. Midbrain is the smallest part of our brain. So this part, midbrain, if you want to zoom it, how it look like, see. So this is going to have some lobes. So here it is going to be 4 lobes present. So together this structure is called as corpora quadrigemina. Okay, so this is called as corpora quadrigemina. So this upper 2 lobes, first and second, these 2 lobes, they are called as the superior colliculi. Okay, so these are called as the superior colliculi, you can say. And then we have the inferior colliculi. Okay, so we are going to have the first part. There are the 4 colliculi. The word means colliculi, means it is smaller hill-like structure. So these are the 2 colliculi. Superior colliculi a little larger, and just behind that we have 2 more colliculis, means small round hill like a little elevated structure, that is the inferior colliculi. As compared to the superior colliculi, inferior colliculi are smaller. Then after that, from this corpora quadrigemina, quadri means 4, so that's why we have 4 lobes, right? So first and second lobes are present above, and third and the fourth lobes, they are present below. So these are called as the crura cerebri. Okay, so what is it? See, this crura cerebri are actually the tracts. Okay, so first of all we'll see the function of the superior colliculi and the inferior colliculi. First thing, if it is a superior colliculi, it is going to be our vision is going to be controlled. Okay, and this inferior colliculi is going to control our auditory function. So these are called as the visual lobe. Okay, these are called as the visual lobe, and these are called as the auditory lobes. Okay, so superior colliculi is going to control our visual reflexes. How it controls? Suppose we are not able to see something or zoom something, then we'll turn our head to see this object or that particular thing closely, isn't it? So we are going to control the head and the eye movement so that we can properly zoom or focus on that object. Okay, so this visual lobe is going to control one very much important function, that it is going to control the movement of eye and head to focus on the object. Okay, so this is the function of the superior colliculi, which are also called as the superior colliculi are also called as the visual lobes. So there are 2 visual lobes present, which is going to control our visual reflexes. It is related to vision. So how it is related to the vision, that if you cannot focus, then we also move our head so that we can properly focus on that object, right? So this is the function of the superior colliculi. Interesting. So after that, let's just move to the next one. The same thing is happening. It is the auditory lobe, as you can now understand that if it is going to control the auditory reflex, how it will going to control the auditory reflex. Suppose you are going to hear a sound there, then we'll turn our head, isn't that, so that we can properly hear the thing. So towards the sound or towards the specific wave they're coming, wave, the sounds of wave, we turn our head so that we can properly hear the thing. So the same like the superior colliculi, this inferior colliculi is going to control the movement. Okay, it is going to control the movement of the ear and the head. Okay, to focus to hear the sound properly. Okay, so this is the function of the inferior colliculus. So there are 4 colliculus together, it is called as the corpora quadrigemina. Next one, the second one, that is the crura cerebri. We have the crura cerebri have one important function, that it is going to act as a relay center. So what is actually the relay center? It is going to pass relay. You know the relay race. Relay race means one stick is passed by one athlete to the next athlete, right? So relay center is also going to perform the same thing, that it is going to transmit the impulse from one center or from one lobe to the next lobe. So this crura cerebri is acting as a relay center. So this is the midbrain. Remember, this midbrain is going to be the smallest part of the brain, okay, which is present just behind the diencephalon. Here we have the diencephalon, and in this region we are going to have the cerebellum of the hindbrain. So up to this we have complete. After that, let's just move to the next part, that is the hindbrain. So how does hindbrain is there? Let's just see. So just see. So how does hindbrain is located? Suppose same, I'm going to draw the same diagram. So here, this is the brain. So in this brain, we are going to have 3 parts in the hindbrain. What is that? One is called as the pons varoli, second one is called as medulla oblongata, and this will be called as the cerebellum. Okay, so this is the cerebellum. So if you see this structure, suppose pons varoli, I will draw the pons varoli and medulla oblongata separately, and after that we'll move to the cerebellum. So this is the pons varoli and this is the medulla oblongata. Okay, so here this is the cerebellum. Here we will have the cerebellum, but up to this is the pons varoli and medulla oblongata, and medulla oblongata extends to form the spinal cord. So here it is the pons varoli, this is the medulla oblongata. Now let us see their functions. See, if it is the pons varoli is also acting as a connection. So it is present here. So it is going to connect the forebrain with the hindbrain also. So here the first function of the pons varoli is to act as a relay, or means it will transmit the sensory information to the cerebellum. So the sensory information via the eye, it will go to the cerebellum. This will be performed or functioned by the pons varoli. Next one, it connects the forebrain with the hindbrain. Yes, the whole forebrain is going to be connected with the hindbrain via the pons varoli. Next one, it is going to regulate breathing. You know the function of the pons varoli in the breathing chapter we have already studied. So here we are going to have 2 centers. What are they? One is called as the pneumotaxic center. This is the pneumotaxic center, and this is called as the apneustic center. Okay, so we are going to have the pneumotaxic center, apneustic center, where the regulation of breathing can be controlled. It is performed by the pons varoli, right? So this is basically a relay, or it's actually the mediator between the forebrain and the hindbrain, that is the cerebellum, that is the pons varoli. In the pons varoli also we are going to have the 4th ventricle present. So this is the very important part of the hindbrain. Then after that, let us move to the next part, that is the medulla oblongata. Actually, this medulla oblongata is going to control basically most of the physiological functions. What are they? First of all, it is going to have a very important function in the heart beating, so it's going to have the cardiac center. Then after that, breathing center, it's also be present there. Next on vasomotor center, means it is going to dilate or constrict the blood vessel. This is also performed by the vasomotor center. Next one, the vomit center, we have the urge of vomiting whenever the pain or any type of sensation of vomit comes, that will be controlled, regulated by the vomit center present in the medulla oblongata. So this is the function, these are the functions of pons verili and medulla oblongata. Let us see the next part of the hindbrain, the last part of the brain in fact, that is the cerebellum. So cerebellum, as the name suggests, it's sounds same as cerebrum. So actually the word cerebellum means it is the little cerebellum. Okay, so why it is called as the little cerebellum? Because the similar type of functions like the cerebrum has, cerebellum also has. Okay, so see, earlier I have told you that the cerebrum is divided into two parts, that are cerebral hemisphere, and they're connected by the corpus callosum. Same thing is happening here also. So what is happening, if you see the cerebellum is also divided into two parts. Okay, they are called as the cerebellar hemisphere, and both these two cerebellar hemisphere is actually connected to each other by a worm like this type of structure. So what is this? This is called as vermis. Okay, so here the vermis is going to connect the two cerebellar hemisphere like this. Okay, so what is the next very important characteristics about the cerebellum? That both the two cerebellar hemisphere are connected by vermis. Okay, so this is the function of the cerebellum. This is very important. Like the cerebrum, cerebellum is also be divided into two parts. They are called as the cerebellar hemisphere. Next one, another thing you need to know, that in case of the cerebellum, if you see the cerebellum, suppose this is the cerebellum, right? Only one half I have drawn. So here we have the pons, here we have the medulla, right? In the pons, what we have, and yes, it's also another very important function, that is the second largest part of our brain is your cerebellum. Okay, as it is the largest part, what we need to have, it will also require more nutrients and more gases, right? So as it requires more nutrients and more gases, it need to have its ventricle by itself. But yes, in case of cerebellum, there is no ventricle. So if there is no ventricle, no CSF will be there. So how the CSF will come into the cerebellum? Because the cells cannot survive without it. So how it will come? See, this is the fourth ventricle present in the pons verili. From the pons verili, the band of white fibers, that means the white nerves. What are the white nerves? Actually, they are nothing but the myelinated nerve. They will go to the cerebellum and it get branched like this. Okay, so this will form this type of structure. So this is called as the tree of life. Okay, this is called as a tree of life, or simply it's in biology it's called as arbor vitae or vita. Okay, this is the arbor vitae. Main function of the arbor vitae is to carry CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, from the pons verili. In the pons verili, we have the fourth ventricle. From the fourth ventricle, the CSF will enter into the cerebellum via the arbor vitae. Now, these are the important points you need to know about cerebellum. And very important function to tell you, that here one very interesting cell is present. That cell is called as the Purkinje cell. Okay, what is the main function of the Purkinje cells? The Purkinje cells have a unique function that it is going to control our equilibrium, that we can be in the balanced state. It will maintain, specifically it is going to maintain balance. Okay, it's going to maintain balance. So what is it? This cerebellum, which have this Purkinje cells, some cells are present. They are going to maintain our state of equilibrium. That means how can we able to stand without falling? That will be controlled by the Purkinje cells. Now, these Purkinje cells are very much sensitive to alcohol. So if an individual get drunk, which is a very bad habit, then via the blood, these Purkinje cells, they got actually affected, and the equilibrium of the body, the balance of the body is lost. So this is about the function of the cerebellum. Okay, you know that when a drunk individual walks, if he is heavily drunk, he can lose his balance. The reason is the Purkinje cells, which are sensitive to alcohol, get affected, and the function of the Purkinje cells are being stopped or decreased. So that's why the balance of this individual is hampered, right? So this is about the very important things you need to know. After that, let's just move to the function of the cerebellum. So the function of the hindbrain is to basically involve in the movement. Okay, the balance or the equilibrium of the body is controlled by the cerebellum. Next very important thing, that whenever we are in the early stage, the infants or in the toddler stage, in the childhood stage, we learn to walk. So that learning process in the early stages of our life is actually occurs in the hindbrain, that is the part, that is the cerebellum. Okay, so what we have seen, the functions of the cerebellum, we have completed the structure of the brain. Now after that, we need to know about the colors of brain. So one very important thing you need to know, what are the colors of the brain actually. See, we are going to have two colors. One is the gray color and another is the white color. Okay, so what is the gray and white color? So wherever we have the gray color, we will call this as the gray matter, and wherever we have white color, we have white matter. So gray matter and white matter, they are nothing but wherever we have the cytone, okay, and the axons of non-myelinated neuron, that is going to be called as the gray matter, because the color of the myelin is white. So if this is a non-myelinated neuron, the color will be not white, so it appears grayish. And if it is the white matter, it is going to have the axons of myelinated neuron. Okay, so wherever we have white matter, here what type of color we are going to have? The white color. So we have the gray matter and the white matter. Now after that, let's just move to the next part, that in which part of the body, the brain, we have the white color and the gray color. Okay, so let's just see here. Suppose this is the brain and this is the spinal cord. Together I will tell you about this. So what is it? In the brain, what we have, towards the periphery, we are going to have the gray matter. Okay, so towards the periphery, what we have, the cytones of the neuron and the non-myelinated nerve fiber. So that's why it appears, that's why it is appearing grayish in color, and centrally we have the white matter, because in this region what we have the axons of myelinated nerve fiber, because myelinated neuron can conduct the impulse faster as compared to the non-myelinated nerve fibers. So that's why in the center of the brain we are going to have the white matter. Next, in case of spinal cord, it's going to be different. Okay, so what is happening, if it comes to the brain, what we are going to have, centrally gray, centrally white matter, okay, and peripherally gray matter. And in the spinal cord, what we have, centrally gray matter and peripherally white matter. Okay. Now, a very interesting point you need to know that in the brain we have one exception, that as we know that from the medulla oblongata the brain, the spinal cord arise, right? So what happens, that there is one exception. What is this exception? That is medulla oblongata. In the medulla oblongata, like the spinal cord, what we have centrally gray matter and peripherally white matter. So these are the important thing you need to know, that about the white matter and the gray matter. So this is the very important point. Then after that, let's just move to the next part, that is the brain stem. Okay, so what is the stem actually? If you see a plant, and in the plant we have the stems, this is nothing but your stem from where all the leaves, the branches, flowers, seed, fruit, everything comes, right? Same thing is happening in case of the brain too. So in case of the brain, what happens, the pons varolii, medulla oblongata and the midbrain. So suppose this is the, okay, so this is the midbrain, this is the pons varolii, this is the medulla oblongata. So this will be called as the brain stem. So whenever we are in the developing state of our brain, whenever first brain develop, first of all the stem, brain stem develops. So first medulla oblongata, pons varolii and midbrain develops, and from that above we develop the cerebrum. Then after that, on the hind region, posterior region, we will develop the cerebellum. So brain stem is the first part which develop in the early stage of embryonic state. So that's why on this brain stem, the whole part of the brain, all the brain is located above, it is situated, right? So brain stem have a unique function. What is that function? Whenever we are concentrating or give more concentrate on a specific sense, then all of the other sense will be blocked. Suppose we are listening to a song or watching a movie, very giving so much interest, okay, then we cannot hear or we cannot understand the other things, isn't that? So actually what the brain does, whenever we are concentrating on a specific sense, the brain stops bringing the senses to the brain. It's not like that sensory organs are not working. Suppose we are watching something, or suppose you are reading something, and this period of time you should read. So whenever you're reading something, suppose you're on to that subjects and giving too much interest, then if somebody will call you, then you will not be able to hear. The reason is, this is the brain stem. Brain stem blocks all of the other sense whenever we are concentrating on a specific sense. Okay, so what is this? This is the brain stem. Then after that, let's just move to the next part. What is this? This is the limbic system. So what is the limbic system now? Limbic system, it's also called as the emotional brain. Okay, it's going to control most of the emotions of the body, of our brain. So suppose this is the brain here, this is spinal cord, this is corpus callosum, and here we have the midbrain and diencephalon. In this region, what we have, the limbic system. So this limbic system will be like this. Okay, it's going to have two parts. What are they? One is amygdala and another is the hippocampus. Okay, hippocampus. So what is the function of the amygdala and hippocampus? It is going to, what I have said, it's going to control most of the emotions. So let's just see their functions. So what is it? If it comes to the amygdala and hippocampus, first thing, if it comes to the amygdala, the first part is called as the amygdala, and posterior region, which is a fork-like structure. So the posterior fork-like region will be called as hippocampus. So see, if it is in amygdala, amygdala is controlling our different types of moods. So amygdala is basically controlling different moods of our body. So it is going to be regulated where fear, anger, love, jealousy, rage, this type of emotions, they're controlled by amygdala. And hippocampus have a strange function associated with the smell and memory. We can remember, recognize the smell because it is controlled by here. There is an emotional sense of smell. This will be controlled by hippocampus. And another very important function of hippocampus is to convert the short-term memory into long-term memory. Suppose you listen to a specific song or watch a movie, and after that you forgot. But after 6, 7, 10 years later, if you want to, suppose if you see and in the TV it comes, then you can recall those things which are been forgotten for long time, but after that it came back. Okay, so the conversion of short-term memory into long-term memory is controlled also by this hippocampus. So this is about the brain. We have completed the brain part. In the next video we will see the spinal cord. So up to this, I hope you understand about the brain. Thank you.